Case Study 1. Where did the first Catholic Mass take place in the Philippines? The very first historical Catholic Mass in the Philippines happened on Easter Sunday of March 31, 1521, administered by Father Pedro de Valderrama on the shore of Town Island known as Limasawa in southern Leyte. Yet according to Pigafetta's record, Magellan went to Butuan and there held the principal mass based on the warfarers gathering with Island King. Truly Magellan course never included Butuan as one of its goals. From the eastern piece of the Philippines, arriving at the island of Hamonmon, Magellan continued to Limasawa and immediately met two rulers, in particular the Datu of Limasawa and the Datu of Butuan. That is my perspective, is that there was a misconstruction of information concerning the first mass but several claims have assumptions that it occurred in Limasawa, southern Leyte. According to the article of Tixon 2016 on March 15, 21, the island's sovereign ruler was Siu. At the point when Magellan and companions set foot on the grounds of Limasawa, he became a close acquaintance with the Raha along with his sibling Raha Kulambu, who was from Butuan. This was the principal recorded blood minimized among the Filipinos and Spaniards. Then blessings were traded by the two gatherings when the festival had finished. Also, the compositions of the past students of history neglected to delineate the right of the right course of Magellan's boats toward the Philippines. Some reviews represented the passage of the boats from southern piece of the nation, while the record of Antonio Pigafetta uncovered the passageway from the eastern piece of the nation, from the heading of the Pacific District. Alexander and Blair in 2008, moreover, the record was established from the misconception of the gathering between the three people. According to Pigafetta, Magellan met the Datu of Limasawa, one and another Datu, the ruler of Butuan. This pictures the birthplace of the disarray that Magellan in truth never went to Butuan because he and his men commanded the principal mass on the island of Limasawa, along with the two Datus before they continued traveling to Cebu. The article of Republic Act 11373 stated that the act that declares March 31 of every year as a special working holiday in the whole province of Southern Leyte to honor the introduction of Roman Catholicism in the country. Despite the historical controversies and debate that had emerged between the two places being the vicinity of the first mass in our country, there is several evidences and authentication that it took place in Magallanes, Limasawa, formerly known as Masawa, in southern Leyte, and as a result of promulgated law, the government declared a national shrine to commemorate the birth of Christianity in the Philippines. Case Study 2. What happened in the Cavite Mutiny? On May 13, 1898, Filipino soldiers in Cavite province rebelled against their Spanish colonial masters. The insurrection lasted for 6 days and resulted in the deaths of more than 1,000 Spanish troops and civilians. The rebellion is often cited as one of the catalysts that led to the Philippine-American War 1899 to 1902. The Cavite Mutiny, also known as the Manila Mutiny, was a military revolt that took place in Cavite, Philippines on May 17, 1898. The revolt was led by Filipino officers against the Spanish colonial rule and was the first major armed rebellion against the Spanish colonial empire. The mutineers were eventually suppressed by Spanish colonial forces, with some estimates suggesting that as many as 1,000 Filipinos were killed in the suppression of the rebellion. The Cavite Mutiny has been seen as precursor to the Philippine Revolution, which would eventually overthrow Spanish colonial rule in the Philippines in 1898. The Cavite Mutiny of 1898 was a rebellion that took place in Cavite, Philippines on April 9, 1898. The rebels were soldiers and sailors of the Spanish colonial army who rebelled against their officers. The mutiny began when a group of Spanish officers attempted to arrest a captain for refusing to obey an order. The soldiers then seized control of the barracks and set up a provisional government. For the next several days, the rebels engaged in sporadic fighting with Spanish forces. However, by April 12, most of the rebellion had subsided and the provisional government was disbanded. In light of the current state of Philippines politics, it is important to examine the events that transpired during the Cavite Mutiny. Published sources paint a diverse picture and do not always reflect positively on all involved in the mutiny. However, examination of these sources allows for a better understanding of why so many people rebelled against their government. The mutiny was an ambitious undertaking, and as such, it required capable leaders who could motivate their troops to take action. Unfortunately, for those leading the rebellion, they were not able to generate enough support from within the ranks or from outside forces. Case Study 3. Did Rizal retract? Did Jose Rizal retract? No, Rizal did not retract, although there were many opinions and evidences presented by various authors as to whether Rizal did or did not retract. Nonetheless, until now, there is no proof or any justification to end the debate. The following assertions bring about the testimonies that Rizal did not retract before his execution. First was the copy of the retraction paper that was allegedly signed by Rizal that was even kept secret and was only published in newspapers. When Rizal's family requested for the original copy, it was said that it was lost. Could the Jesuits be the responsible to not know the value of the paper? Or was it just hidden? 39 years later, the original copy was found in the Archdiocesan Archives. Ricardo Pascual PhD, who was given permission by the Archbishop Nosaleda to examine the document and later concluded in his book, Rizal Beyond the Grave, that the documents presented was a forgery. The common rebuttal of this argument was either Father Balaguer or Father Pai had made errors in producing another copy of the original. Another evidences as to Rizal did not retract is that when Father Balaguer came to terms that he married Jose and Josephine after Jose had signed the retraction paper, however, there were no marriage certificate or public record shown that could prove Father Balaguer's statement. Why would Rizal retract when he knows for a fact that even if he signs the retraction paper, he would still be executed? Since the Archbishop and Jesuits cannot do anything to mitigate his penalty because the judicial process involved was purely a military tribunal where civilian or church interference was uncommon and not allowed. Rizal was accused of participating in filibusterist propaganda where the penalty as provided by the Spanish Code is death. The same of what happened to the three priests who were garroted years earlier, even though they were still a part of the church. They were still treated as rebellious and were also not given a proper burial. Furthermore, way back when Rizal was still exiled in Dapitan, Father Sanchez, Rizal's favorite teacher from Ateneo, was sent by the Jesuit superiors to try convince his former students' allegation toward the Catholic religion and Spanish religious in the Philippines. Father Sanchez told him to retract in exchange of professorship, 100,000 pesos, and an estate. However, Rizal rejected the offer. It was argued that Rizal retracted in order to save his family from further persecution, to give Josephine Bracken a legal status as his wife, and assure reforms from the Spanish government. It is more likely to be of Rizal's mentality. However, come to think of it, Would Rizal just simply neglect all the writing he conceived with his hard work? The same writings that brought him to the point of being executed? No, Rizal's behaviors during his last hours in Port Santiago does not point to a conversion. The "mi ultimo adios" and letters or indicate even a religious instability. In the evening where his sister and mother arrived, never had he mentioned about the retraction, contrary to what Father Balaguer claimed that even in the afternoon, Rizal was oblivious and was asking for the formula of retraction. Rizal was fixated of the thought that he would die for the love of his country. He himself had committed death a long time ago. His character speaks so loud that even all of Rizal's friends do not believe that he have written a retraction. Let us let us look at Rizal's character as a man aged 33. He was mature enough to realize the consequences of the choice he had made even before he opposed to the Jesuits. He had been anticipating this to happen and would be unlikely if he had a behavior showing a threat from death. Anyone who has been studying his biography and had been acquainted with him knows this is so. Even the priest had admitted that Rizal showed a behavior consistent of what he was throughout his mature years. Case Study 4. Where did the cry of rebellion happen? Generally, the term cry denoted the first clash between the Katipuneros and the civil guards and the tearing up of their community tax certificates, which was accompanied by their patriotic shouts to defy their commitment and loyalty to Spain, sick of the oppression under foreign rule and craving for freedom and independence. Filipino revolutionaries under the leadership of Andres Bonifacio did those acts as a sign of the resistance. However, there were two different places and dates that in contention on where and when the cry of rebellion occurred. Various accounts by participants and historians give differing dates and places for the cry. An officer of the Spanish Guardia Civil, Lt. Oligario Diaz, stated that the cry took place in Balintawak on August 25, 1896. Teodoro Calao, in his 1925 book, The Filipino Revolution, wrote that the event took place during the last week of August 1896 at Kangkong, Balintawak. Santiago Alvarez, the son of Mariano Alvarez, the leader of the Magdiwang faction in Cavite, stated in 1927 that the cry took place in Bahay Toro, now in Quezon City, on August 24, 1896. Pio Valenzuela, a close associate of Andres Bonifacio, declared in 1948 that it happened in Pugadlawin on August 23, 1896. Gregorio Saide stated in his books in 1954 that the cry happened in Balintawak on August 26, 1896. Fellow historian Teodoro Agoncillo wrote in 1956 that it took place in Pugadlawin on August 23, 1896. Based on Pio Valenzuela's statement, accounts by Milagros Guerrero, Emmanuel Encarnacion, and Ramon Villegas claim the event to have taken place in Tandang Soras Barn in Gulod, Barangay Banlat, Quezon City. Some of the apparent confusion is in part due to the double meaning of the terms Balintawak and Caloocan at the turn of the century. Balintawak referred to a both specific place in modern Caloocan and a wider area which included parts of modern Quezon City. Similarly, Caloocan referred to modern Caloocan and also a wider area which included modern Quezon City and part of modern Pasig. Pugadlawin, Pasong Tamo, Kangkong, and other specific places were all in Greater Balintawak. which was in turn part of Greater Caloocan. With that, the cry of Balintawak was soon changed into cry of Pugadlawin. But there is no controversy about the act of courage of Bonifacio and the Katipuneros and the significance of their act. They tore their cedulas as an expression of defiance against Spanish rule. Reflecting on this act today, we see the bravery of Filipinos who fought against foreign enemy with superior arms. The Katipuneros would match this symbolic act with attacks in Mandaluyong, Pandacan, and Pasig that prompted the Spaniards to declare a state of war in 8 provinces: Manila, Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Bulacan, Tarlac, Nueva Ecija, and Pampanga. 120 to 3 years after this historic event, the cry of Filipino revolutionaries, regardless of the controversies on the dates and venues, should continue to inspire modern Filipinos. That's all. Thank you.